Are we all set, Jess?
Almost.
Got my right to know script ready to roll.
And then okay, I think you're good, Senator.
Thank you. I am Senator Jay Kahn, and today we are hosting a meeting of the Commission on Holocaust and Genocide Education. Before I get started, I will read through a checklist to ensure that the meeting that we are holding is in compliance with the right to know law. As the Senate member of the, as the chairman of the Commission on Holocaust and Genocide Education, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04 and its extensions, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there's no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. In accordance with the emergency order, I'm confirming that we are providing public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possible by video and other means. We're utilizing Zoom for this electronic meeting. All members of the committee and selected legislative staff have the ability to communicate contemporaneously in this meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously watch and or listen to the meeting on Zoom or YouTube and via phone by following the directions and links provided on the General Court website. We've provided the public calendar notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting in the Senate calendar. We're providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anyone has a problem, please email one word, remote senate at leg.state.nh.us or call 603-271-3043. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting, will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that any votes taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call. And finally, we'll begin the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member is asked, please state your presence, where they are, and if anyone else is in the room with you during the meeting, which is required under the right to know law. So I am Senator Jay Kahn in Keene at home, and my wife is elsewhere in the House. Representative Wolf. Dan, you're muted.
You're muted.
We don't have,
All right, there I go.
there you go.
Am I okay now?
You're good.
I'm Dan Wolf. I'm in my office in New London, and I am present for this meeting.
Thank you, Dan. Representative Arthur Ellison.
Thank you. Thank you, Jay. I'm here in Concord in my home, and I'm by myself.
And Ashley Harbill.
Ashley Harbill. I'm in my classroom at Sanborn Regional High School in Kingston, New Hampshire. I am by myself, but there are custodians passing by, so one might just open the door to empty my trash.
Thank you. Good to see you, Ashley. Superintendent Brian Balke.
Good afternoon. I'm Brian Balke. I'm alone in my office in Goffstown, New Hampshire.
Good to see you, Brian. Dr. Waller.
Yes, I'm Jim Waller. I am at my home in Spofford, New Hampshire, and I'm alone.
Good to see you, Jim. Marna Ducharme.
Hi, I'm Marna Ducharme, and I am alone in my office, but my husband is elsewhere in the house in Manchester, New Hampshire.
Bishop Labashi.
Yes, good afternoon. Bishop Labashi here. I'm present in my residence, the bishop's residence here in Manchester, and there's no one else in the residence.
Thank you, Bishop. Good to see you. Tom White?
Tom White at the Cohen Center at King State College in my office, and I'm alone.
Thank you, Tom. Dina Chadowitz.
Hi, I'm Dina Chadowitz. I'm at home in Windham, New Hampshire. My husband's mowing the lawn.
We'll hear some background noise. Thanks, Dina. Reverend Zachary Harmon.
Hi, Reverend Zachary Harmon, here appearing from my home in Goffstown, and nobody's here in the room with me, but my wife is elsewhere in the house.
Thank you. I don't see Rabbi. Oh, there you are. There you are, John.
I'm John Spiros Savet. I am here at my home in Nashua by myself.
Thank you, Rabbi. Kati Preston. Don't see Kati. Okay. And Robert Treston.
Good afternoon, Robert Treston. I'm in Nantucket, Massachusetts, and my cousin is in the house I'm in right now.
Thanks for fitting us into your schedule, Robert. And Eve Gakunde.
Eve Gakunde. I'm in my office at the City Hall in Keene, New Hampshire, and I'm alone.
And Evan Sizowski.
Hi, everyone. Evan Chizowski. I am at Bedford High School right now in a classroom. I am alone and the door is shut, but there are other people elsewhere in the building.
Thank you, Evan. Good to see you. All right. First up on our agenda for today is the policy committee update on the Holocaust Genocide Education rules before the State Board of Education. And I earlier had a conversation with the chairman of the board, Drew Klein, but Brian, I'll no doubt update the group on that conversation and their upcoming meeting. But Brian, any updates, thoughts from you?
Yeah, thank you, Senator. The State Board of Ed, I'll be curious to hear what Chairman Klein shared with you, so we'll be anticipating that. The State Board of Ed had a follow-up item at their meeting last month. Unfortunately, it was, as their meetings almost always are, an all-day affair, and I was not able to be there for the entire duration. There's never a timeline given, so you kind of have to just wait till it's your turn on the agenda. So I was not able to see the discussion. As I recall, the chairman had given some follow-up activities to different state board members who were going to research what had been done in other states. And I think that's where they had left off their work. So I will defer to the senator who spoke with the State Board of Ed chairman.
So Brian, it sounds accurate. They apparently spent 2 meetings. So their April and May meetings, talking about how other states had implemented similar rules for Holocaust and other related studies. Now, it might have been genocide in other states, and it might be other types of discriminated groups, like we know about Connecticut having implemented something for Latino, Black, and Holocaust studies in one set of rules. Anyhow, they went through that process, and the reporting out should be in this meeting, which is June 10th. They're going to try to give us a heads up on timing, and where this conversation is going to lead is, and it would be really helpful, I think, for several members of this committee that have knowledge of the implementations in other states to be resources to the board as they go through that discussion. The chairman indicated that he thinks they would likely take some action at the June meeting after having done this homework. There are two questions that from the get-go they were curious about and may want to make some alterations, and we might want to discuss this further. I suppose one of us might want to share our screen. Ashley, I know you did that at one point with what the rules are in their written form in case you want to get them up. But the one is relative to the age appropriateness of Holocaust and genocide education. And you may recall that we have wording that says by 6th grade. It would be introduced into the curriculum, and that was related to world geography, world studies, world history being introduced in 6th grade, as I recall our conversation. And what they have observed in some other states, that floor is set at no earlier than 6th grade. So they're going to be wanting to talk about that topic. The second one is how tightly should the rule prescribe a course of study, like I just did by saying world history. And they have found that in some states they leave it wide open. In other states, it could be social studies or English. And the concern as expressed by the chairman was that they don't want this to be a reading of night and conclude in that week and kind of just brush over the topic without much conversation or relationship to current events. And so that sounded like the second concern for the board. I indicated to him that I thought that we had indicated that it could be through language arts or social sciences or social studies that it could be accomplished. And I think that's in our rules, but does it make sense, Ashley, to bring them up just to take a look and see specifically what the words are?
I mean, it is exactly like that's what the words are. It says as a component of a course in social studies and or English language arts and across the curriculum as applicable.
That's pretty broad.
And I think, sorry, my computer just muted me. I know we left it broad because like in my school, we don't do it in social studies, we do it in English, and we just spent 2.5 months reading night. We had 4 survivors who came and spoke to our students, including we got Kadi to come in person. We Zoomed with someone in Israel. Like it's, I think they're concerned about, I understand their concern about it being like you just read night and then like move on. But I think we have to trust that teachers are going to do the best by their students, and anyone who's reading something that deals with the Holocaust, and any English language arts teacher that I know teaches the Holocaust and like the historical context. And I think the way that we wrote the rules, it's more than just like you can read a book. We have all of these things that you need to hit, that you need to cover within whatever that unit is. So I know like I made sure to look at these when I was building the night unit when we just redid it this year. And I made sure to kind of use these as a guidelines to make sure that our unit hit on all of the different requirements that it was, that the minimum standards was going to ask us for in English, not in social studies. Someone want me, like I can pull, I have them up if people want to see them, but
what do you think, folks?
I prefer to see people's faces.
I think it might be helpful to see it.
Okay, let me pull it up.
I agree. It would be good to have a quick refresh.
Hold on one second. I think that this is the latest version. I'm not entirely sure because we had so many versions. I just had to like go back through my email. So this is what I think we sent and we gave to them in February. So we have that language about social studies or English language arts and across this curriculum there. Same with the, like, really it's the section A, I think that they're debating.
Yep.
The section A is the grade as well as the where. And if any of them are watching, I caution saying that it has to be in a specific social studies class because I don't think that you'll get as broad of a unit. I know, in my high school, freshman and sophomore social studies just got cut by a half a credit to do more English. So because there's no state testing associated with it, oftentimes social studies gets cut and it's one of the lesser kind of minimum standards that's required by graduation, whereas English, you need 4 credits in order to graduate. So for me, it makes sense, hopefully, for them to keep it in.
Yeah. Let people take a look for a second. I think we need to come back to A.
I know they also had a discussion. I wasn't at this past meeting in May, but at the April one, there was some discussion about the term genocide education and whether or not we needed to name other genocides. I don't know if that was still a discussion at the May meeting, but that was a question that had come up at the April meeting.
I can ask that. I told them I'd get back to them with additional questions. So if any other commission members have a question like that, is that a concern? I can feed those questions to him in advance of their discussion.
I think, Senator, if I may, the only questions I would have would be relative to timing. So at this point, they have not had their public hearing on the proposed rule changes. So they have not gone through the process before the rules that are being proposed would ultimately go on to the Joint Legislative Committee on Administrative Rules. So I think for all of us, they're meeting on June 10th. June 10th is a conflict for me. So unfortunately, I could be there at their meeting in the morning, but in that afternoon, we're doing 8th grade promotion and high school graduation. So that is a date that is impossible for me to be there the whole day. But I would be curious to the chairman what their timeline is, because if at this point they need to have 1 or 2 public hearings and then move the rules onto JALCAR, we're probably looking at next fall. It could be as late as November or December. So in terms of implementation, we're probably all but guaranteeing that we're looking at a July of 22 kind of time frame, probably.
Are you all set with the screen sharing?
I think just go back to A for a second so that we can see what that language is specifically to not later than 6th grade. So an alternative there would be implemented not later than middle school grades 6th through 8th and continuing through grade 12. I'm just throwing that out there because I know that we knew that this would be a question mark for people.
And I think it's I don't know if there's a right answer for it because lots of states do it in different ways. I know that whatever language is created there or whatever language is passed there that's on our plate as the best practices. Like we plan on making sure that like options for developmentally appropriate like lessons and developmentally appropriate resources for teachers to use depending on what grade ends up getting passed in that.
Senator, I did like what you proposed just now, because I think that going off of what Ashley just said briefly, other states have different language, but they also have state mandated curricula. And so because we don't, and every district is different, I think that we should outline something that says on a district to district basis, depending upon what they consider their middle grades. If we leave it a little bit more loose and open to the district, but just kind of clearly somehow excluding elementary school, if that makes any sense. Other states can say 6th grade or 7th grade because they have those cutoffs because every district has the same breaks. Our state does not have that. So I think we do need to draw a line somewhere, but there are some schools in our state that have 5th grade in middle school. And there are some that don't start until 7th grade. So I think it's really hard to draw a 6th grade line. And I do think that depending upon the district, the 6th grade curriculum doesn't even come anywhere near this. So it would be locking them into something that is completely out of context for the rest of their year. I think it's a kind of a tricky thing. Even looking at my own district and having taught 6th grade this year, which I don't normally, I just would not see an easy way to fit a lot of this in.
What was the social science?
For 6th grade this year, we did 6th grade geography, which is more like the idea of location, using maps, using coordinates, having a sense of place. And there are some ways that perhaps we could fit this in, but it almost would feel artificial, whereas in our particular curriculum, it smoothly fits into the 7th grade curriculum. So, and it's not that we couldn't do it in 6th grade, but it just wouldn't be as smooth. And I think that there's a level, having now worked with the 6th grade, which I hadn't done before, there's a level of maturity for the 7th grade that the 6th grade just doesn't have.
Okay.
7th grade deals more with the human aspect of geography. 6th grade, in our district at least, deals more with the physical aspects of geography. Landscapes and things like that.
Yep.
And again, district to district, it's different. So I can only speak for mine, but I think locking us in with that grade level is going to be tough.
Brian, how's this sounding to you?
I would say I don't really have a strong opinion. When we had originally drafted the language, we were talking about 8th grade, and then there was a pretty lengthy discussion we had at the subcommittee level and then with the full commission as well. And the general consensus was to move it down to 6th grade. I didn't have a strong opinion then. I still don't. I think flexibility is what districts always want. So in that respect, I think Marna is spot on that, more flexibility for districts is a good thing. But I would just probably caution us at this point. The rules are kind of out of our hand. Chairman Klein might be interested in hearing more about this one particular item, but when the state board brings their language forward, it's the language they're recommending. So at that point in time, the work belongs to the state board and not to us any longer.
Yes. Well, I think he's invited, he's inviting several members of our commission to be present. It will be an agended item. So it's not like it's part of I know you've expressed to me, I haven't been able to go to any of these because they're always on Senate session days. But they're going to set a time or at least an order in the agenda, and so I think he's going to be considerate of trying to schedule it. I can feed back to him that you, Brian, would not be available in the afternoon. I think Ashley and if you could be available, Martha.
That's like end of school year for us.
Yeah.
Like next week is last week of school with our kids. So I can't promise that I can be available. I have no clue. Like if it's during one of my class periods, I can't miss it. I won't be able to get a sub at the end of the school year.
Can you tell me?
We have finals that week. You know, if I have the afternoons, or I could be somewhere if that would be helpful to anyone.
You're available in the afternoon, Evan?
Yeah.
Senator,
Tina?
yeah, so could I just express my 2 cents for what it's worth? I like the language that currently exists and would not like it to be changed, because I think we're seeing kids much younger than 6th graders, at least with respect to anti-Semitism, being subjected to anti-Semitic comments, microaggressions on school buses at a very early age. Things like Hitler was right, Jews should go back to the ovens at much younger grades. And if kids are saying those things at much younger grades, I kind of feel they should be learning a little bit about what they're saying in school. And it doesn't have to be all of the education in 6th grade, right? I mean, the role we're creating does require the education occur every year, but hopefully schools are going to give a little bit over the course of a student's education, so that there would be some at an earlier age, and then more intense examination of genocides and Holocaust at an older age. The other thing is in some schools in 5th and or 6th grade, students are learning things about the indigenous population. And so learning about the genocide of Native Americans could be part of what they're learning in 5th and or 6th grade. Anyway, that's my feeling. I would rather stick with that language. And just one other thing, I appreciate what you heard from the chairman of the State Board of Education about being concerned about just a school just reading. I know the students who have teachers like Evan and Ashley and Marna are very lucky, but I don't know that all schools are going to do what they do. And so I do understand where that comment's coming from, and hopefully our best practices will make it clear that the education has to be more than just reading a novel. But
well, Dina,
totally appreciate that concern.
If you look at the minimum requirements that we wrote, it outlines that the education has to be more than that, right? So I think it's important to not look at it as like a singular, that it has to be taught like that we're teaching the Holocaust, right? And no, it's you're teaching these things that are in the minimum standard, including
I understand
context in that. So, and well, I understand that, like for me, the concern is that like the New Hampshire requirements for graduation, it's 2.5 credits of social studies, it's 4 credits of English. Freshmen and sophomores at my school are now taking a half a course each year, and that's it. So like it just got cut big time at our school. Social studies did, because it doesn't have as many credits that are required for graduation. So just as like if anyone, whoever is at the meeting, if they do ask, I will try to pop in whenever I can. But I obviously will have students for chunks of the day. So I just don't want to commit 100%, but you know, that's something that they definitely should take into consideration, because trying to get an extra unit in to a social studies class when you only have 2.5 credits versus English, which can be a lot more flexible because it's skill-based, not content-based, is a huge, at least in like our experience here with our social studies department at my school, is a huge thing.
I see Robert's got his hand up. And Tom, I think both of you have done some comparative review of other states. That's it is the context of which they're concerned. Robert, you want to jump in?
Well, one, Senator, are we being asked to make I'm not sure if we're being asked to make a recommendation here, but the other thing is we, in all of our meetings, we've talked about the practicality of implementation of the law, and also giving the school districts some measure of a boundary of implementation. And so if what I'm hearing from Ashley and Marna, just is sort of on the ground, this actually is a little bit restricting, then I would certainly favor, making an adjustment, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that this actually makes its way into one of these classes, one of the courses, and into a classroom. So if making an adjustment from 6th is going to work, then I would certainly favor that.
Thanks. Yeah, the alternative that Marna thought might work, implemented in middle school grades 6 through 8 and continuing through 12th grade. It's different from what Dina's point is, which I do recognize too. There is a bullying statute, and there's hate speech, whether that's on the basis of religion or ethnicity or race or whatever. That's bullying, and schools should be introducing students to that kind of the expectations of not bullying their peers. That should be definitely a part of the elementary schools. I think we're talking about how we're going up against a yardstick, right? And the yardstick is, what are other states doing? And so, Robert, I appreciate your sentiment in trying to get this across the finish line. And I think what the chairman said is they want to as well. They don't want to slow walk this. They just want to be, because it's a different kind of curriculum. It hasn't been in the education rules in the past. They wanted to make sure that as they introduced it, that they had done some homework comparing to other states. Tom, you got any thoughts on this? Can't hear you.
No, I just said that I would, I agree with the points being made at this stage.
Okay. Anyone else?
Senator, if I could, I don't want to beat this point home, but again, in teaching 6th grade, which has opened my eyes to a lot of things with the kids, many of them have said, because I've done current events with them, we have covered some of the things that are going on in Israel as it came up in context with some other things, and it was on CNN 10, which was, we watched that with the kids. Many of them have commented that they're not allowed to watch the news. The news is too violent, and that their parents don't want them exposed to that. And so I think that hearing that from these kids, and I just think that there is a level of maturity and exposure that has to come with this content. And I think that separating, as you said, the bullying aspect, which is one piece, from the content and the context, and sometimes even the severity of the content, is very different. And I really would be hesitant to introduce this as a unit of study to 6th grade and below, but especially 5th grade and below. So if parents are still not allowing their children to watch the news in 6th grade, we know that they're not doing it in 5th grade either. So I think we have to walk a fine line there, because what we're exposing the kids to is different than what their parents necessarily are allowing them to. So what I'm saying is that this may be their first exposure to some really big and heavy concepts. And so we have to make sure that their maturity and their readiness is there. And the younger the kids are, the less likely it's there. And then the lessons will be lost. And I'm not sure that we'll be hitting what we need to be hitting.
Thanks, Myrna.
Mhm.
Reverend Herman?
Thank you, Senator Khan. Just thinking about this, it seemed I was able to sit through the first Board of Education meeting, and they did have that concern then about the age appropriateness and wanting to make sure it didn't overwhelm kids and where was a good fit for it. And it seems like kind of the complication is, that there are some kids who it sounds like wouldn't be exposed to this until the content comes up. But then there's other kids I know from working with kids in Sunday school and where have you, that they're very familiar with some of the background, whether it's video games or they watch an X-Men movie or, there's these concepts that they talk. And if they bring that without some good discussion and content, it gets complicated. And so maybe the bullying statute can be a good way to address that. I don't know. But there is that balance of being age appropriate and trying to juggle in our schools that some kids are coming from families that are, very careful about how they expose, their kids to these stories, and others where they're taking in this content from a very young age. And so how do we balance that, I guess, is a question.
It is what they'll wrestle with. And we want to make it simple, for and there's nothing simple about this topic. I recognize that too. Let me just get a sense. I mean, I think we've had a good conversation. I think we know that the question is about age appropriateness and being able to wrap this into course content, not just a single lesson I do think the middle school ages are where the content can be more robust, which I think is the word and concept that they're thinking about, at least through the chairman. The question now, who can be the messengers for the commission? June 10th is the date. If it's in the morning, who could be available in the morning of the 10th? Brian, anybody else?
Depending on what time, I might be able to step out for like 10 minutes, but it depends on what class period I have, because some of my classes are very large and without a co-teacher, and some of them I have a co-teacher in, so it all depends on when.
Senator, the House is meeting that day as well. Art, did you get that date? So
Yes.
Art and I are out of commission.
I have civics classes, but I'm probably not the best spokesperson on these two issues. But anyway.
Tom, what are we?
I'm potentially available. I'm checking my calendar now. Again, it depends on time, but put me down as a tentative yes.
Evan, I saw you're available in the afternoon.
I'm available in the afternoon, but I may also be available in the morning. It also depends on what time. We have a final schedule, and if I'm scheduled for that block, then I can be there, but I have a period on that date that I may be available for.
Thank you. Robert, I don't know of your availability, but
I was just checking. What's the time on the 10th?
I don't.
So the meetings start at 9. But the problem is it's typically an all-day meeting. So their meetings typically go from 9 a.m. until 3:30, 4, 5 o'clock at night. So it would be better to have kind of a more definitive time, but you're not going to get that. So Chairman Klein's not going to be able to say, at 11:15 a.m. we're going to hear the proposed language around the rules. That's not how it will go. It'll say we're fourth on the agenda, But then what happens is when they're dealing with hearings between parents and school districts, those things can move from public session to non-public session. So just prepare yourself, and you have to register. So if you go to the New Hampshire Department of Education's website and look at state board, you have to register to be invited. And then they would certainly recognize a couple of people's names. They would recognize my name probably. They would probably recognize Ashley and Marna's. Evan, if you let Angela Adams know, or I'm happy to do that, she does the minutes for the state board and she kind of oversees the Zoom call. So I think if she knew that you were there for that purpose, that if there are questions, you and I could kind of do like a handoff. That I don't mind having it in the background as long as I can kind of make it happen and fit it in. But you have to realize this is an all day kind of commitment depending on where it is on the agenda.
So what I'll volunteer to do is I'll write back to the Chairman Klein and include Angela Adams. I'll list who's available in the morning, meaning in trying to push a morning time, the front part of the agenda. Hey, we'll see where it goes, but I'll copy whoever says I'm available in the morning or I'm available in the afternoon. And then we'll just let things play out the way they do.
I mean, Senator, the other option is that we just sort of like divide it up amongst ourselves and we each take like a 2-hour block or an hour block to cover. And if you could, maybe we just provide that information to the chair. And if it comes up during this 2 hours, Marta can speak, or I've got availability in the afternoon.
Is that your schedule? I'm trying to. I will do that. We'll just stay in communication. But Robert, you've got some time during the day.
Yes.
Jay, put me on that email too, because what I did last time with Brian was I literally had it going all day long on the background in my computer. And then Brian texted me when it was time. And then I like snuck out in the hallway for it. So if I'm able to sneak out, I will. But I'll just have it on in the background all day because that's what I did last time.
And that's my plan as well. I have classes packed that morning. It's different for me every day. I have a little bit more flexibility in the afternoon, but the morning will be tough, but I'll still have it on. And depending upon how independent the students are that day, I'll be able to make myself more or less available.
Yep. Yeah, Dina?
I have a hard stop at 4:25 and
right.
we have to vote on the minutes of the April meeting.
We will do that right after this. So what I've got is volunteers that I'll continue to notify. Robert's suggestion of picking a couple hours that people will be more conscious about being present during those times. We'll try to work that out in the next week. But I've got Brian, Evan, Ashley, Tom, Robert, and Marna. Okay, so I'll keep you folks well informed as well as we can, and that should cover us during the day. Thank you. Good, we're good at a resting stop. We can, Dina, if you can show in the minutes, and we have them that, this conversation about implemented that by 6th grade, we meant implemented in middle school grades 6 through 8 and continuing through 12th. I think that would capture, in essence, our conversation. And then our members can go forth and use whatever context you have for presenting that. And if we're good with this topic, yes.
Actually, I didn't catch that. What is the language you want to use?
I can send it to you after the meeting. But that what we're providing as further clarification of what we meant by sixth grade is that that the curriculum be implemented in middle school grades 6 through 8 and continuing through 12th grade. So if they start having trouble with the by 6th grade language, we've got an alternative for them. I think it'll be helpful to be able to, Brian, don't you think it's going to be helpful to have an alternative that somebody could suggest? And
yeah, and really, I think that's consistent with conversations that we've had over the last several months. So, you know, I know that I don't personally have a very strong feeling whether it's 6th grade, 7th grade, or 8th grade. I think that this is important for us to be teaching kids, and right now this is not a requirement. So it's a step in the right direction. And I, again, don't have a strong feeling 6th, 7th, or 8th grade. If the state board does, then they can put whatever they want in their proposed rules. But I think giving them kind of that flexibility that, you know, as a commission, we've been kind of conflicted on this and had some spirited discussion. So I think that the state board should not feel as strongly fixed on 6th grade if they're thinking that developmentally it might be better a little later.
Great. Okay.
But I will plan to be at the state board meeting probably between 9 and 12. So I've already registered, and I think I can solidly commit until about noon time. And then I'm going to have to get over because our 8th grade promotion starts a couple hours after that.
I'll convey that
okay.
to the people that need to know
Very well.
in order to give us a preferred agenda slot.
May I just ask, Brian, did you just email Amanda Phelps? Is that how you register?
No, you go to the website and they have a section when you click on state board and you click on 2021 meetings, and then you'll pull up the schedule and you have to actually click on a link and you have to submit your name, your email address, and submit it, and then you'll get a confirmation email back from Angela Adams that you've been registered for the state board meeting.
Okay.
And
okay.
everyone, yeah, you have to do that every single meeting, every time.
That's fine. I'm just on there and I don't see that link. It just says email. Please contact Amanda Phelps for pre-registration.
So Brian, can you forward that to the committee?
Yeah,
could you send the link?
Actually, how about I do this? I can share if you want. I have it pulled up because I just did it. If you want, I can share my screen and show you.
Actually, if you could put that in the email, I'm concerned about getting the minutes and.
Sure. This is the State Department of Ed. You just come right here where it says June 10th and it says register for the state board meeting. You just click on that right there. But I'll grab this this link and I will put it in the chat.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll be in communication. So let me.
Actually, I can't. I'm sorry, I can't put it in the chat. That's not an option for me.
No. Just send it.
Yeah,
I'll send it to me and I'll get it.
Will do. You bet.
Okay. Moving to. I'm sorry I didn't put that on the agenda. Approval of minutes of our April meeting. Thank you, Dina, for the preparation. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Thank you, Representative. Seconded by Representative Ellison. And let me call the roll on the minutes. Representative Wolf?
Yes.
Representative Ellison?
Yes.
Ms. Harble?
Yes.
Superintendent Balke?
Yes.
Dr. Waller, I think we've lost. Ms. Ducharme?
Yes.
Bishop Labashi?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Ms. Chadowitz?
Yes.
Reverend Harmon,
Yes.
Rabbi Spirosavat,
Yes.
Mr. Trustin,
Yes.
and Mr. Gukunde.
Yes.
All right, minutes are approved. Let me switch to the next topic. I don't know what your summer schedules are. It's going to be a lot easier to schedule these meetings in the summer than it has been during the Senate sessions and House session. So would you like to meet in July so that we can recap from the state board and kind of walk through that timeline that Brian was trying to lead us through? And so I'll try to find a meeting like the second Tuesday, first or second Tuesday in July. It'll be the second Tuesday in July. Okay.
Sounds like a good idea.
So maybe July 13th, you're suggesting?
That would be July 13th. Sound good? Works for me.
Jim and I will be unavailable that week. We have a all-day residential institute that week.
Great. Maybe we can, can we get that into the minutes maybe?
What?
We could. This is Jim's program with AIPR, or formerly AIPR. So
is it appropriate for teachers?
no.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
Is Wednesday the 14th all right? The problem with Tuesday is I have a 4:30 class, so I have to.
Yep. No, we can certainly be on Wednesdays. If it's a Wednesday, how about July 7th? Is that a possibility for folks? Tom, does that work for you and Jim?
It does currently, yes.
All right, want to try for July 7th?
Yep.
That works for me.
Okay, and any other business?
Would just a moment, Senator. What time would that be? Same time, 3:30?
School folks in schools, not so much an issue, right? We could
Free
meet
all
earlier.
day.
Huh?
Whole day free.
Yeah.
Free after 11.
After 11. Yeah, I think we're probably still in the afternoon then, right? Early afternoon.
Yep, that works.
All right. I'll look for the 1 o'clock slot and we'll see where it goes from there. Okay.
Wait, so we're going to be at 1 or at 3:30?
No, we'll try to meet earlier in the day on the 7th.
Oh, okay. So you'll let us know.
I will. I'll just
Okay.
look for the best slot, but we'll go for early afternoon.
Thank you.
As opposed to after school.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, good. And any other topics that folks have that they wish to bring? If you need to sign off, Dina, I'll be taking notes and I'll get them to you.
Okay, I have 1 more minute.
Yeah. I did get a note from Jim Smart. I wanted to let folks know it was as regards trying to advocate for education relating to Palestine and mostly really to Palestinians, and that this commission gives some thought to the issues that are raised in our current time. I probably need to get back to him with the response, which I think would be much like what we responded to the indigenous populations, that without a change to our scope, it's hard for us to pivot and become more comprehensive than what the legislation provided for us. But that we could be a, I don't know what to say beyond that. We invited Ms. Hoppe to keep us posted on the work that her organization, coalition, was doing on, so that we would be informed if there was any legislative initiative that they were engaged in. That's, I just wanted you to be aware of the correspondence.
I think we should say that the point of education is to learn knowledge and principles to apply them, and that we are hoping that this initiative that we're responsible for will help people think about we'll think of all sorts of questions, and that this would encourage people to do the research and the thinking that's necessary to form an informed opinion on any of the related issues that are brought up in schools or anywhere.
I think the main thing, Senator, is that we're bound by the parameters that the legislature gave to us. It's sort of, you know, there was a little bit of overlapping issues just with some of the pending legislation. Like, we're not really empowered to be making, to go too far outside of the bounds. You know, I think of what the law that set up the commission in the first place.
I also don't think this is quite like the issue raised by the woman whose name you mentioned, I don't forget, because to the extent that we define what happened to Native Americans as genocide, that will come under best practices. The issues in the Middle East, I don't see are related to what we're studying. So I don't know what we can say other than what Robert just suggested. We're limited by the statute.
We are and what's been defined as genocide. And thank you, Tom, for having provided us that context from the United Nations and the recognitions of genocides globally. Representative Wolf.
Yes, I think that last comment was very good, but I worry about it appearing that we are hiding behind the law, the rules that we have, and not opening it up. And I think your comment, Senator, to make it more aware and an understanding of all of the types of genocide and problems of that sort, that I don't want to be perceived as just focusing on the Holocaust and genocide.
Agreed. And I think the legislation's clear on that. Rabbi, I saw your hand.
Yeah, I just want to say that I think, while I wouldn't use the term genocide to describe what's happening in Palestine, I think the point of education and what at least some of us, I think, are arguing against the HB 544 type approach is you have to be able to ask the question. And that's what education is, to ask and explore the question. You end up in saying it is or it isn't. And as a result of my study and my conclusion, I'm going to do this, that, or the other thing. And I think I don't think as a commission we can write standards about this, because of the charge we've been given. But I think if somebody approaches us, we give encouragement that study of these historical topics, anything that comes as a result is we support that spirit.
Great. Reverend Herman, and then
I have to go.
Yeah.
And I have a 4:30 as well, Senator.
Good enough. We'll be real brief. We'll recognize these other two comments. And we'll sign off.
Quality time with your daughter for the
very briefly, just that kind of what Dina said. I see best practices as well as being a place to discuss some of this, because
did you have a nice
it
weekend?
does get complicated with where and how genocide is understood. Like, you know, Canada has used genocide, at least cultural genocide, to just define the residential school system and with the Indigenous people there. So, so these are nuanced conversations. We're talking about flexibility in the classroom, and I think best practices is going to be an important place to have that conversation.
Okay. Maybe we can reserve a little bit more time for that in our next.
No way.
Just quickly, I want to ask if it would be appropriate to invite Jim Smart, one of our meetings, to kind of really understand what he's, where he's heading with his thought. And
During the war, they were right. They were Bedouins, but now everything's quiet. Going out again.
Dana, do you want to mute yourself?
Oh, I thought I was muted.
No. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments here?
Let me know when you're ready for a motion to adjourn.
Looking for it now.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn at 4:31 p.m.
All right.
Seconded.
Good timing. Thank you. Second.
Seconded.
Thank you, Ashley. All right, I got to go through the roll again. Representative Wolf. Yes, still here?
No, he left.
Not here. Sorry. Representative Ellison.
Yes.
Ms. Harble.
Yes.
Superintendent Balke.
Yes.
Ms. Descharme.
Yes.
Bishop Labashi.
Yes.
Mr. White.
Yes.
I think Ms. Chadowitz. Reverend Harmon.
Yes.
Rabbi Spiro Savat.
Yes.
Mr. Trustin.
Yes.
And Mr. Gutkunde.
yes.
All right. And the chair votes yes. I will communicate with you about the July 10th meeting. And Evan, yes?
Senator, I don't think I'm on all of the lists. Sometimes I get left off of emails and I get an email later on that says, oh, we left you off this list, sorry. And then when you're calling the roll, not a big deal as far as
I did that just now. I thank you, Evan.
I vote to adjourn.
Thank you. In the most dramatic way. Thank you for displaying your art. We are adjourned.
Thank you.